Taiwan passes climate law with carbon fee system, 2050 net zero goal. Taiwan's legislature on Tuesday passed a sweeping climate bill, titled the Climate Change Response Act, to establish a carbon fee system for large emitters and set a goal of reaching net zero emissions by 2050. The approved version of the act establishes a goal of reaching net zero carbon emissions in Taiwan by 2050. Meaning that the amount of greenhouse gases emitted would be no more than the amount removed from the atmosphere. The effort will be led by the Executive Yuan's National Council for Sustainable Development, which will coordinate with central government agencies and other stakeholders to draft climate action plans. To reach the net zero goal, the Act will introduce in phases a mechanism to collect carbon fees on direct, and later indirect, emissions from entities whose emissions reach a certain threshold. The system will likely take effect from the beginning of 2024. And in its initial stage impose fees on an estimated 287 companies and other entities in Taiwan with annual carbon dioxide emissions of at least 25,000 tons. Notably, the legislation will also establish a Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM, or tax on imports of carbon-intensive products designated by regulatory authorities. In terms of incentives, the Act will allow companies to apply for carbon fee discounts if they switch to using low-carbon fuel, adopt carbon-negative technologies, or use renewable energy sources to reduce their emissions. Meanwhile, all revenues from the carbon fee system will be placed into a greenhouse gas management fund, which will be used for such purposes as subsidizing corporate investment in carbon reduction technologies and reimbursing local governments for climate policy-related costs. Net zero. Net zero.
形容词零排放的名词零排放
Legislature. Legislature.
立法机构
Establish. Establish.
建立创立
Emit. Emit.
散发出光线讯号味道或气体发出射出
Greenhouse gas. Greenhouse gas.
温室效应气体
Council. Council.
经选举或指派的理事会、区、镇、市的地方议会委员会
Sustainable. Sustainable.
可持续的可以长期发展的
Coordinate. Coordinate.
协调相互配合
Stakeholder. Stakeholder.
股东、社会、组织、社团的权益关系人
Draft. Draft.
动词拟定、文件、方案名词草案、草稿、草图
Mechanism. Mechanism.
体制、机制、制度、结构、机械组件、装置
Threshold. Threshold.
门槛、界限、起始的数值
Impose. Impose.
实施、法律、规定、惩罚、课税
Entity. Entity.
实体、具体且独立存在的实体
Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide.
二氧化碳
Designate. Designate.
指定、指派、选定、委任、划定、区域、用途。
regulatory, regulatory,
有管理权的，有职权的，控制的，监管的。
authority, authority,
官方、执法机关，权力、管理职权。
incentive, incentive,
奖励、鼓励措施。
adopt, adopt,
接受、采用、方法、计划、观念、收养、领养、小孩。
renewable, renewable,
形容词能源、可再生的，文件、可延长有效期限的。
renewables, renewables,
名词可再生能源。
revenue, revenue,
收入、营收、税收、税入。
subsidize, subsidize,
提供、补助或津贴、出资协助。
reimburse, reimburse,
支付、偿还、付款。